Hi, this is Lori Rehfeldt, and we've got Donna Schreiber and Larry Warren, our guest, and who knows, maybe he'll come back and be our sidekick. We are the native New Yorkers, the native New
We are.
Yorkers. And
Yeah.
we're here with God aliens and a cup of coffee. And I'm just so thrilled to finally have Larry on here and thrilled that Donna's on here too, always. And they're both on their phones and I'm not. But I just want to tell you that we're here mainly I want Larry to share his story, and I know he
Oh,
definitely share it. So from this point, I'd like to take it on. One thing I want to mention is Cable Green, the film, the
right.
documentary that's going to come out 1 year from now or something, maybe. And but we're excited. We're no matter what, we're anticipating sort of. Anyway, Larry, welcome to God
Don't
Alien
get me going.
Coffee.
Well, I thank you, old Bentwaters sister, and to your other sister, Donna, who's having 7-Eleven coffee.
That's
Oh,
right.
I miss that. I miss that. And yeah, it's good to see you, kid.
Yeah, good seeing you too, Larry. You know, Larry, it's so funny because your memory is sometimes a little bit better than mine, but I do vaguely remember meeting you.
I remember it clearly.
Yeah,
Clearly.
this is
Yeah,
Don. This is when and how I met Larry. This is like 2 weeks before I left to go home for New York.
right.
He's
That's right. Yeah, you want to hear about
yeah.
that? Because we've never really said the general population. I was never in the Air Force, and all these things. We know all about. But I can remember very clearly meeting you for a couple reasons. It was the day I got on base, and
That was
we had
was that December 1st then?
it was December 1st. There was some snow on the ground that day. It was a sunny day. We came in on the bus, and it had snowed overnight, I guess. And
Mm-hmm.
we flew over from McGuire into, was it Milton Hall? Is it
Milton
Milton
Hall.
Hall? And then all the bases we had back then were, I think the younger people wouldn't realize how many Yankee bases we had.
Yeah.
And we got on, and we got Bud Steffens ended up filling in for my, you had that guy, you get the letter, it's going to meet you, or the guy or girl, and they're
Yeah,
going to,
yeah.
well, that guy never showed up with me.
Sponsor. Your
His name,
sponsor.
I wonder if you know his name, because his name was, or knew him. I never met the guy, James Gage. Does that sound familiar?
No, no.
No, maybe it didn't exist, but I still have the letter. You will meet your, whatever he was.
Yeah, yeah.
And we pulled in and got off near the gas station on, the living side, near the all
Yep.
ranks and all
Mhm.
that.
So,
And
so
across the street was
you went past my gate then.
Well, that was I wouldn't have known then, but
Yeah.
once we get, I'm kind of an explorer. Us New York types, we just are, aren't we? We
Right.
stick our noses everywhere. And I got off the bus, and I'm like, okay, here's the real deal, because I've been at Lackman, I've been on Plattsburgh, upstate, to get my paycheck when I was on leave. I'm like, ooh, I go on my uniform, I have my ID. That was cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So here we are, but it was definitely not what I was expecting.
Mhm.
And got to the room, and on the dorms, the secure SP dorms,
Mhm.
and ours was right along the parking lot there. And I remember I probably threw my stuff in, and then we had a meet at the All Ranks Club. There was all the base command. There was a lot of new people coming on when I got there. And there was Ed Cabanasak, who everyone knows about from the Rendlesham thing,
Mhm.
Steve Longero, uh, Steve LaPlume, a lot of names. People all came in with me. And then there were a lot of other jobs that came in, and some with families and etc. And we got to the big disco ball section of
Mhm.
the All Ranks Club.
Mhm.
I have pictures of all of it. All the bad white people dancing pictures I have. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, they called it
And
the Phantom Club.
was that what it was called?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And they have the
We
fun.
called it we didn't actually call it the All Ranks Club, even though we all used it. We actually just called it the NCO Club. But anyway.
Really?
Mhm.
I remember the Thunderbolt Pizza Lounge and the guy that named Dave that would call out pizzas, number 29, please. Like the stupid things you remember. And he loved Earl Klug, the jazz musician. Why is that in my head 42 years later? I don't know. And we got there's Donna riding around in Long Island. Are you out in the island?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. She's listening to music because I'm bored her already. But we got, and I is your sister still with us? I don't know. She
Oh,
may
yeah,
be.
yeah. She
Okay.
definitely is. She definitely is.
Well,
We don't know where
well,
she's looking, but we
how
know
I met how I met Major Rehfeldt. Then I think
Ray,
Airman First
it's actually pronounced Rehfeldt. Don't ask me
Rehfeldt.
why. Rehfeldt.
Yeah, I know that.
Some people say
And
Rehfeldt, and I'm like, no. We do the Ray.
oy vey, I
Oy
know.
vey. Oy vey.
And
We do the Bay.
well, my name
Rehfeldt.
is about as base and plain as you can get, Warren, right? And you wouldn't believe, even in the service and beyond, is it Warner? Now, I knew how to spell pretty young, but I can tell you exactly how I met you. And I will remember it, why I remember it. The main gate on the living side on Bentwaters.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow they had this meeting and you met Halt, you met Gordon Williams, you met Ted Conrad, the base commander,
Uh-huh.
you met Malcolm Ziegler, you met Carl Drury. What a joy. All
Yeah.
those fine folks. And there were a lot of other AFSCs represented there, job code people.
Yeah.
And so after that was over, we had a day to do what we wanted. I have to tell you, yeah. And so off we went. I did, and we broke up. I didn't know a lot of people there. There were a few guys I flew over with from training, and they were trying to sort out their thing. And I just said, oh, I'm going to walk around because I'd gone to school in England, in Essex. So it wasn't new to me. The 2 years or a year before, 2 years. I enlisted in 79. So it's, 79. So I just took a walk, and I remember there was the ice on the road. It had snowed overnight, and then it was melting away. It was a sunny day. It was probably midday. You would have been on a day shift,
Mm-hmm.
and you were on those little white containers with the plexiglass. And we had the barrier and all, and you were doing the salutes rendered and received, and it was the alert signs and the sandbags all over across from you. And I walked up, and knowing me being me, hey, how you doing? However it went. And you go, are you new or something? And I said, I'm from New York, and you're from New York. And we got rapping. I remember you had hair coming out from your beret and all that. And with your sidearm, your 38s, I remember that clearly. And we got rapping, and who knew, right? I mean, who knew? And we just had about 15. I mean, you're working. So here I am, this new guy running his mouth. And you said, good luck, this and that. And I remember you saying you were rotating back to the States. And that was, as far as I remember, the last time. I said, take care. Who knows? We'll know each other in 42 years. Who knew you'd be a major? Who knew we'd be involved in all that madness? But I can remember that. Isn't it funny what you don't remember and what you do? And I can remember meeting you probably better than you. I wouldn't stand out to you, but it was so intense because it was all new to me. You'd already had 2 years in there, and it was so intense.
Actually, I was at 2.5 years.
2.5 years,
Two and a half years there. Yeah.
So you had seen and done it all, and so it was. But I was, it was all new. And but I want to explore, and I just got past your gate, and I remember there was only a bus stop across the road.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, I don't know where to go around here because it's like hillbilly country, to me. And I went back, and our room had these brown drapes on the wall. I had a roommate I did not like instantly. I can remember that. I don't remember what else we did, but that night we went to sleep and of the first, and the doors banging at about 3 a.m. and there was this staff sergeant outside. I don't remember who it was. and saying, you know, get your alert gear and all this with, and I'm like, we just got here. We just had our duffel bag, our uniform, didn't
Yeah.
even have the patches sewn on yet, you know, for the
Mhm.
81st. And, you know, we did what we could do in San Antonio, but after that, you know, there you had to go to those little trailers they had for, remember the House of Leather? They had the leather jackets and all this.
Mhm, mhm.
And the stereo one,
God.
Kenwood speakers was a big thing. But I can remember you, and I remember it so clear. And to this day, I mean, I really do. And you were very pleasant, and you know, who knew, right?
That was my problem. I was pleasant. I would
Me too.
always get phone calls from the desk sergeant saying, are you homesteading? What do you mean am I homesteading? He goes, you
Homestead.
got people just hanging
Where
out
do they
here.
where
What's
do
that?
they get those words? Where did they come up with the lingo they had? You know, it was always some big thing for,
Well,
like, a roll of toilet paper was a GOT or government owned tissue. I don't know. They
yeah,
were ate up on that.
well, you know what's funny is that I got a letter from family, and I guess the letter went through Hicksville, New York, and it had the
Yeah,
stamp on it. And somehow it got to my flight chief, and he had it, and he handed me this letter. And now he was from Alabama,
right.
and oh man, he he goes, I got one question for you, Rehfeldt. And I'm like, what's that? Hicksville, because he's from Alabama, I'm New York, and it's like we did not speak the same language. He was like,
No,
what, you know? So Hicksville, and I tried to say, yeah, you know, Hicksville, that's where Billy Joel is from.
that's
It's
right.
like, he's like, he just couldn't get it. It was like, Hicksville is not in New York. Hicksville is
No,
where I live in Alabama.
on the island.
Yeah, that was
The
Tech Sergeant Jim Wade.
Oh, I
Yeah,
remember Wade. I remember the name Wade. Sure, I do. I don't remember why.
he was a good old boy. Um,
Oh, there were a lot of that going on, and that was fine. I mean, you have to, people don't understand, especially, you know, we're going back a whole other time. I mean, when I met you, John Lennon was alive still for another 8 days. That was it.
I know.
And 8 days, that was it.
Could you
And then,
imagine? Could you imagine how I was feeling? I was driving. I was living off base at that time in Wickham Market, and I'm driving near the roundabout, and I had the
yeah,
radio on, and that's when I
yeah,
learned about that John Lennon had been killed, and I knew I started to cry because I knew
yeah,
it felt like I was in his country, yet I was going back to New York where it happened, and
yeah,
it just kind of it kind of was like the tip of the iceberg of everything that went on over
yeah.
in England that was so crappy, and
That
then that it ended like that.
that event for me was, you know, being new on the base, and I was at that point in training on Woodbridge. You know, when you come in, you have the 2 weeks of incoming. I was waiting for my clearance, which came in on the 15th. I stole all the records, so they're
Yeah,
authentic.
yeah.
And I was told to by Persky, you know, remember Colonel Persky, and he didn't say it in all those words, but I kind of assumed, thank
Mhm.
God.
Yeah.
But that we were in a classroom with Farees and these sergeants. I remember Ziegler walked in, and we were in tech school. We were told not to stand if an officer came in the room.
Mhm.
I don't know why. And so half of it, and we're all new, so half of us, some stood up, the rest just sat there staring at Ziegler, and he says, I'm going to leave the room and come back in. And we got the sergeant there stand up, you know. He was really into it, wasn't he? And but that day, I remember that morning, this guy, one of the sergeants goes, I was talking to these other Beatle guys, real big fans, and they were going to go to Liverpool.
Mhm.
And you know, and I said, I met John, you know, all this stuff, and we're just, and the new album was out and all,
Yeah.
and you know, we still were in that kind of head a little bit. And I've never left that head, frankly. They couldn't shake me on the. And then he goes, "Hey, that one of them Beatles just got shot in New York. I mean, this is hours earlier. We're on the 9th by then." And I'm like, "Huh?" And then and so we had all day at class, and that became very real in the club at night. I went on the television. It had he had been shot, and that that was a big, big, with the Rendlesham Forest incident of December 1980. I can say from me, that was because I was a musician. I was in the rock and roll bands, biggest Beatle fan there is. And I'd argue that with I'm sure many can argue it too. And that was right there. So there was a downer, a big downer.
Oh yeah,
A cultural thing. You'd have to be our age, and what he was one of us in the end. You know, he was going to be a U.S. citizen in '82. He was definitely going to do it, and all that. I wasn't a friend of his or any of that, but you know, he was cool. And so that was a shocking thing. So there was kind of a little life shock thing going on, and then we finished our incoming training. And we were assigned at some point to our flights, and I did a mixture. I mean, I remember the last week I rode around with you guys, Ellie, and we broke up some parties at. I wasn't on the line yet because the clearance wasn't there for it.
right.
And we broke up some officers' kids having parties, and I remember this big, wild, crazy party. It's probably Colonel Holt's kids. I don't know. I don't know. And well, I've got kids too. I know how they are.
Well,
But
yeah, we all do.
the Air Force type brats and all that, but very, I don't know what the word was for some of it was entitled. There was an entitlement, which I don't do well, even at that age, you know, with anyone really. So anyway, all that went on, and you're getting to know your guys, and then my clearance came in on the 15th, and I was working I was C and D flight, because I think they were looking where to put people, you know, because a lot of new people. I know why, you know why. I won't go into it, because I do respect the service and our force and what we did. A lot of people, especially over this way, in the UK, people have never served a cup of tea, frankly, even in the Royal Armed Forces. I have many friends that have been served, but these other ones, the UFO types, have never done an inch. They have no idea, and they run their mouths. You're aware, and on all of us, on everyone. I don't know what it is. It's a cowardice that's unmatched I've ever seen. I think these things I'm talking on are to blame, but you know, I don't have time for it really.
And the one thing I remember you wrote in your book, Left at the Gate, is, and the chapters you wrote were great. The rest of it could have been chopped out.
That's what an agent told me once, but I stayed loyal. So
no, but one thing that really, you know, was so solid with me that, you know, for me, that you have 100% credibility, is the fact that when you got to the base, you felt something was off, and I remember feeling that too. As soon as I got off, it almost had a heavy weight to it. It was like, you know, it just didn't feel like, you know.
If I go, I don't want to insult anyone, because I know people from Suffolk probably will watch this, and I know people there, but I have to tell you, even if to this day, going back, and you know, and I've been back there many, many, many times, more than probably any of us that served. I've seen more of it. Here's the guy cheering the loudest when I got the hell out, and I've never gotten away from it. And the funny thing with that is there is a vibe there, and I don't, you know, there's a long ancient history and all, but on that base, I will say, the pleasure was meeting you that day. You stood out more than any other part, but there was a vibe. As soon as I got off that bus, there was a hostility you couldn't see. But there was a negativity you could feel, and it just was the way it was, because I've been on other air bases. I used to go on Stewart Air Base near Newburgh with my dad in the 60s. You know, I don't know why we went on there, but or it's Plattsburgh. You know, my brother-in-law was same job as us, was up at Plattsburgh, and I've never felt that, you know, in a place. There's a certain state I won't name, but I felt it there. So, as soon as I crossed the border.
I too, after I left England, you know, and I knew something was wrong there the whole time I was there. especially
Yeah.
on base. If you got off base, you could get away from it a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was, I went to Lowry Air Force Base in Denver, and then
Okay.
from there, and no problem there. And they had, you know, that was a student base, and they were, there wasn't as much extreme stuff going on as there was at Bentwaters
Yeah.
through the law enforcement side. And then I went to Nellis Air Force Base. I cross-trained. I got the hell out of law enforcement. I couldn't stand it. I went into television production. And
Nice.
yeah, and then I videotaping bomb drops. That was my first job going out. It's like, damn, those things skip across the dried out lake bed. I was up near what's that place called? Indian Springs, where they fly out the drones now.
Okay.
So yeah, it's about 50 miles north of Las Vegas.
I've been on the fence of Nellis because I don't know if you've ever heard of John Lear. His dad invented the Learjet. John had 100. He's well known in this kind of subject stuff. A nice guy, knew him. He passed away, but he lived very close to the border in Nellis. That's all I got. I
Oh,
seen it.
okay. Yeah, so he would have lived in North Las Vegas, where
That's right. That's right.
I lived. Yeah. That was
Hollywood Drive or something, Hollywood Road or some weird thing.
Yeah. That was considered the rough side of town, but that seems to be where all places are. Yeah.
Looked fancy to me, but
yeah, I know. Go figure. And then, but the bottom line is that I did not experience what I experienced over in England. And every time I went to a different place, I was always like, what the hell happened there? You know? And that went on for years. Now, here's the thing is that they squelched everything out of me that I was not going to talk about my UFO sighting. It was just too much for me to bear. So Don, this is really interesting because it was about 1995, 96 is when I'm on Netscape on an old computer, but it was brand new back then. And I type in RAF Bentwaters, and what comes out? It was left at East Gate. Left at East Gate.
Yeah.
You don't know what it opened up. It opened up.
I do. It opened a lot for me.
It was like, you know, I wanted answered. I wanted questions. I wanted to commiserate. I just was so, you know, I needed to get a hold of you. I was like, I gotta talk to this guy because, you know, it was part of my healing, you know, trying to.
Laura, I think it came out in January. Well, you know, January of '97 in America.
Okay.
And then, but you're right in the ballpark. But we worked on it for many years, a long time. For a million reasons, but we did. Yeah.
And then it was like all of a sudden, all this synchronicity started happening. It just felt like everything was just opened up. And then, you know,
it's a script. It's a script. This thing, I'm telling you. I'm 61. I feel it. You know, it's a script. It's weird. I always say, don't look into it too much because then you'll croak. You know, like you're not. It seems all just scripted. It really does. Very strange.
Yeah.
The connections. I wouldn't have my son had I not been stationed here, and it's all long and roundabout. Very weird. Very strange.
Oh yeah. Well, that's part of, I guess, the thread of life, you know, but it was just so thrilling to me that you and I connected back in the day.
Yes, we did. On a telephone, wasn't it? A phone call.
Yeah.
Somehow, maybe through Peter Robbins, you got a number or something like that. I don't.
Possibly.
Because I didn't have a computer until like 8 years ago.
Yeah, and out of the blue, it was when Georgina Bruni called me, and then I put her in touch with some of the other security guys that, you know, I started to, you know, everyone was coming out of the woodwork because of the World Wide Web.
There's a big story behind the Georgina thing, and I'm happy to go into that subject. Yeah, we ended up good friends. I knew she was dying. She had cancer and passed away.
Yeah.
I had a great last talk with her, and of all people, Mr. Pope called me and let me know one morning that she had passed away before that man did his things to the negative. And she began that book because of, well, I'll say me and the other guy, I wrote it with. And we came to England, and she was a PR kind of person, she's very nice. I liked her, very show busy type lady. But then you had a certain person I worked with undermining me within it. And then, but worse than that, Mr. Pope was right in her pocket. I have emails saying she backed me up 100% and it looks bad for Halt. You would not get that indication when you read her book. So all that went to fire. It's a pattern I'm aware of now that I really was naive about back then. I must tell you, I wouldn't do these things to people. Nope.
Yeah.
That's why I try to protect you guys coming up, that are public now, or I've tried to, just in, some people might think it's sarcastic or negative, but I've been public for 40 years. I got this out in 1982.
Yeah.
And so I've seen.
And that's really key too, is that, I mean, even for me, who would have left the story buried, because that
Not my nature.
Yeah, it wasn't until your name came up. It wasn't anybody else's name, and
well, there wasn't anyone else until the early 90s. I was alone for a decade. And I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about Halt. Halt would a little bit. We had a little exchange, but Peniston, Burroughs, all the others. There was no one there. There was no one. But I was lucky
because they were still in the military and they didn't want.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was lucky in a way that. I called my mother within hours of this happening with Greg Battram. You saw the picture the other night.
Yeah.
From the payphone within 2 hours, 3 hours of back on the main site. Just exactly as I wrote in the book. And I maybe could have written things better back then. I wrote a lot of that in my 20s, by the way.
I thought it was great. I thought it was great because I felt like you were starting to run. You wanted to know, you wanted to get answers, just like Dreyfus, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
My mother's deceased, but her best friend was right there in New York in the apartment. They'd have coffee and chain smoke and do all this late night girl thing. So it was still early, it was early morning hours in New York. And my mother had the call. I'm lucky there's an audio of her discussing it with Bud Hopkins in 1984. I'm also lucky that my mom's best friend, Sue, is alive, heading on 90, but doing well.
Wow.
And she's with my mother. And so, like someone I used to know and have more respect for, you say, well, the first person I chose to lie to was my mother. So you have to think of and believe me, you could not lie to my mother. I couldn't lie to her. She saw through everything.
Yeah. And I had talked to Sue, and she corroborated everything you said.
Oh, Sue. Oh, did you? Oh, great. Yeah. I haven't talked to her.
Yeah. So
she knew me since I was a young guy at like 13 or something, and and so and she's in the movie. A lot of people are in the movie. It's just that's the frustration of it all, ufology is not going to like the movie. Well, it's your show. You tell me, because I don't do these things often. I've done a few in the last month. But yours one I really wanted to do, but I'll let you lead it. Sure.
I really so appreciate that you're saying that.
I appreciate it.
I guess the thing is that I really want.
I got canceled.
You canceled.
Oh, yeah, UFO canceled.
Well, you know what else is interesting though too is that before I went into the Air Force, I had gotten my letter of saying what do they call that when you get an offer? Anyway, I was going to attend the School of Visual Arts in New York City.
Oh, well, Peter taught there.
Yeah, exactly.
Graduated from there, I think.
Yeah.
No.
But when I went there, it was like a real kind of dirtbag kind of a place. I was like, nah.
Makes sense.
It was just like ridiculously expensive, and they didn't have, at that time they didn't have dormitories either. So. But yeah, there was that connection too. The one thing I found interesting though with Peter is that he has never ever taken any interest in my story or talking about it.
Mhm.
What the heck is that? Hang on.
It's just me
Oh,
going.
no, something popped up on my screen. Yeah. So, even,
Peter, I'm
so,
interested now.
yeah.
Hey,
Um,
listen, if you go that route, I mean, you're getting into all kind of,
I'm not going.
it's all kind of dynamics,
Yeah.
and it's disingenuous, it's agenda driven, and he's in the right place now with the right sort of people. It
Okay.
suits him.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I wish him well. It suits him. He's with the
Yeah.
right sort of people. My mistake.
You are such a typical New Yorker. I love it.
I'm more one than he is.
Yeah. So anyway, but so after you finish, and I got to say one other thing too to corroborate this with you also is that
Sure.
I got to Bentwaters in like about May 2nd of 1978, and
Okay.
I was on flight by about the third week. About the third week in, I was on flight. There wasn't much in the training. I could have fallen
Yeah,
asleep.
me too. Yeah.
So so I was on B flight, and then it was funny. It's like the first 2 weeks that I was working, right on my birthday, we were in an alert. So
Right.
yeah, so it's like happy birthday to me as I'm sitting in this floor with my helmet on my head, and
I know.
we're resting on our flak vests after working a 12-hour shift, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
all I wanted to do was go back to the dorm and go to sleep. But yeah, so the turnaround wasn't really lengthy at all when it came to the training. It was pretty much just initialing stuff. Remember that they put these papers and you put your
That's right. I have all of them. I nicked them too.
right.
And they sign off all the different refresher, and they called it base familiarization, air base familiarization. I had ABGD anyway, air base ground defensive,
Yeah.
and so it was getting you to know that base's infrastructure, and of course everything's on the job training in the Air Force.
Right. And
They don't mention that in the I wasn't there and all this garbage.
how could you be on flight when you just got there and whatnot? And it's like, well, because
Well, I didn't. It took me 2 weeks and a few days to get on the flight, and because I had to wait for my clearance, the flight line cleared, and I still wasn't cleared for the WSA, weapons storage area.
Yeah.
And by that point, after the incident, because I was trouble, I called my mother. They tracked it. It was all just as I wrote.
I just can't. I
And
can't believe that they were. I guess no, I can believe it actually.
it's ComSec. Yeah, they had me. They
There
had
was
me.
what was it? The phones were bugged.
It was the payphone outside the chow hall on the living side.
Yeah.
The red British phone
Yeah.
box, and that's where I went. Because remember, they had that place somewhere near the club or the gas station. I don't remember. And
the rec
they
center.
would call home for you or somewhere, and you're in a little box. Well, I didn't want to do that because I was being James Bond, and I was in shock, and Batram was involved, and so I said, I'm going to call my mother, and no one had corralled us yet at all, So it was the morning, and so it was cut off. I reversed the charges first of all, and my mother accepted them. I remember hearing her accept them. Then I said, Ma, you won't believe a UFO landed near the base, blah, blah, blah. What? She's not there. And I'm like, oh, she's gone. So I called back the operator, however you did it back then. And it was a woman, and I said, listen, I've been cut off, and I reversed the charge. She goes, are you calling from the base? And I go, yes. And she goes, and it was a British woman. You've been cut off from the base, disconnected at the base. So I looked. Yeah. And I looked at Greg and I go, oh, I kind of knew something was going to go wrong there. And it did. And, it was, I didn't even understand the dynamic, but I was identified as a problem. But because there had been 3 previous nights of these incidents, which Lori, when the Halt memo came out in '83 in June, based on my information, the FOIA got it out. Freedom of Information Act, folks.
Right.
I literally did not think there was more than one night. So when I thought it all happened in one night. It had to have. And so when people say, there were rumors, I can tell you, no one was talking to anybody about anything. In fact, that's verified by Master Sergeant Gulius on the CNN thing that was out in '85, where he said no one was talking to anybody about anything. And that was a fact. I mean, every time I tried a little bit, people freaked out, or then I started to get all kind of, I worked in operations, SP operations, and I was between there and SP supply. I was never a snap. You remember they used to make those guys? Well, I was never that. I left fully honorable with I just have a code that don't exist, and even Hall couldn't find it. So, but they didn't want me back. And that all that's documented, and I got a guy I wrote a book with going, it never had, it doesn't say much for him, 30 years working together, I shouldn't even get mad. It should be comical to most right-thinking people. I'm a criminal, I'm a this, but this isn't the government doing it. This is ufology doing it.
Yes.
These are the shining, this is the thing I try to protect people from. People like us, not just in Bentwaters, we come out and we're thinking, okay, can you talk to your family? Well, maybe, maybe not. I was from a very conservative family. My mother did not want to know. She believed, but I think because it worried her, and that I realized that later. My dad was the last guy, big executive type guy, didn't ever think he would. And when I started having, just like I wrote in the book, in fact, there's a lot I didn't put in that book, he instantly goes, well, now it makes sense with what's going on. So my mother really would, I'm not even sure she read my book. I really, she had it. First copy I got, I was with Carl Bernstein, me and the other guy were in Philadelphia, and we got our first hot cases, a case of the book, and it was the ink still came off from New York, got sent down. And Carl Bernstein, he goes, from Watergate, he's standing there, and there's a reason why he was there, but he said, you'll never forget that moment. The first copy I took out, I gave to my mother. And after she passed away, I had a teacher, the one teacher, if we're all lucky to have one, that made a difference in my life and kept me in school, John Strow. And from quitting, I wanted to quit, join the Army or something at 16. And long story short, it's in my book. And when my mother passed, I gave that to him.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a joy. I don't relate to that book anymore. It's a part of my life. I was very young. I was in my 20s when I started it. I started it a year before the other guy was involved. He didn't come to me. I asked him, I'm working on this. I had a different co-author. It wasn't right. He was one of the nice man. I forget his name. He was from the old school ufology. And I knew Alan Hynek and all the big things. But in the end, it's just a story. I wanted to make it more human instead of I saw this and the glow and the measurements, and who cares? It's still here. It's right here. I don't need movies, books, and nothing. 42 years, it's still here, as I'm sure it is with you and anyone else,
Yeah, and I think that the human element that you portray in the book is
that's not popular in ufology. Human elements, humor, arts, and music. Don't bring it to the UFO gang. Ooh.
All right,
Sorry.
all the things that I like. Rock and roll.
That's why I try to warn you, kid.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing. You see, because I was nice when I met you, it's just my nature. I'm just, and they did not like
that nice. I'm nice if I read a person right.
Zick every time he went through my gate, he would scowl at me. He definitely did not like women.
Who was that?
Your base. I'm saying it's yours now.
Colonel Holt?
Major Zickler.
Oh, Ziegler didn't. I don't think he liked many people at all. He
Yeah.
kind of liked me. I don't know why. I know people say, see, he was involved in it all. Well, Ziegler was CIA. Did you know that? He was an asset for CIA and working in the Air Force. So that's a fact that's known. We didn't know it then. Yes, he was an asset for CIA. The agency would put people on bases. It's big news. But I can tell you, I had drinks. Remember the Rod and Gun Club
Yeah,
on the flight line? And there was a bar in it.
yeah.
And I found, I was with a friend of mine, Larry Waltz from New York too. And he was the boxing champion on our base. I went to high school with him, big guy. And we were tanked. And we're in the Ron Gun Club and I'm leaving the next day. So I didn't get much a hoot. And Major Ziegler and his wife's there and they bought us drinks. We're sitting with them. But now I know why. Not so much his wife. She was an English woman, very nice. But I had family in Hartford, near Hartford, Connecticut. And he was from West Hartford. So we had that day you sit down with him and he blah, blah, blah. But yeah, he bought me some drinks. But I think he was like, what will he do? It wasn't on my mind. I just wanted to get out. Can I ask you, can we take a quick break real quick? Just put it on pause. Just for a moment.
That I am putting us on pause as we speak.
Well, I have a bunch I can pull up because this is the room I do a lot of art stuff in. But you carry on, honey. Thank you. I have a bladder that does not behave anymore.
Oh, that's fine. I was just talking to Donna, and Donna was saying that I said, yeah, I know, I'm just so nice. And then she thought you said not that nice. And then
no, I said I'm not that nice.
And
because I'm more guarded now, not with you, but I mean in general. And if I come off aggressive, I'm mellow now. You might even find that I'm way more mellow. But I'm not going to let this thing kill me. It's not the government that has to do it. It's the ufology people. You don't have to agree, but I will protect people like you and warn you.
I am protecting you too. I mean, to me, like I said,
people, you go crazy defending thing with these lunatics. I mean, you just will.
I just kind of let it go in one ear and out the other because
it's hard when you're hit from 5 sides though and betrayed and all that. But that's years ago.
The interesting thing is, like you just said earlier, is at that time frame, who was there? Who really experienced what was going on there? It's not all the people in the ufology. It's you, it's me, and what resources did we have to deal with
None.
it?
Zero.
I mean, who was there to help us to explain it instead of using duress or, you say communication security, whatever you shut up.
Yeah.
And you don't know if any of this stuff had any side effects to it. None of us do. I mean,
well, isn't that funny that you'd think we'd have been isolated, even though there are medical effects. I had them long before John Burroughs and all that. I'm documented going back with exposure to a non-shielded nuclear device. This is what they come up with in Connecticut in the hospital, then make it up. But I'm not alone. Eye damage and all. Other people the same. In our situation, December of 80. And it was very intense. It was 100%. And probably, listen, as the movie went on, I don't know everything about this film. I do know it's taken a long time, but it grew. It was supposed to be a little tiny thing on me. As you know, I took a polygraph test with the #1 examiner in the United Kingdom. I passed it, and I've taken and passed 5 voice stress analysis, even by cops. Now, Peter knows all this. The polygraph was all filmed, okay? But no one else was there, but it was in London. And that was the way the movie really went forward. I've always wanted to do one. CNN refused when the examiner found out the nature of the test. And then you have people, and Patricia is from our way. She's from New York. But her husband did all the Michael Palin Around the World series. interesting folks. But anyway, it got very serious. I am the only one from that December 80th that has ever sat a real polygraph. I don't mean these apps on the
Yeah.
television cuckoo shows. And I find it funny when Gary Hazeltine put that out in the press, because he was getting crap too. And yeah, of course, that won't matter to some. But my counter always is this, and I gotta be honest with you. Did I think I was going to pass it? Well, there was the main core question I signed off on. I was allowed to see it. I didn't know the other questions, and there were no tricks. Well, I'll tell you, Lori, once you get wired up and it's all algorithms and the way they really work, and they're 98% boom, boom, boom. And like she tells me, even in the movie, and I know it's in there, she goes, Larry, even the pre-interview, I got so lost that I'm thinking, oh, this is just another interview in our living room. Well, then it got real, and people know. I want to see a number of names sit a polygraph. I think you know who I mean. And they never will. They've been offered it free of charge. They cost about £4,000, by the way, a real one. Oh, yeah. But this has been offered for free. She had no interest in the subject, the dog in the fight. It was somewhere through law enforcement knew her. Well, anyway, I have to say, and people, what'd you feel like? I said, I'll tell you what, it got real. Because she said, if you even a little lie, you'll fail the whole time. So I'm thinking, do I believe what I'm saying here? And it got into character issues and I forget the other questions, but they're in there and they're vital. They're important about character. The first one was I was on post A. I went in the woods. B. I saw C. The end. And it was a paragraph and I signed off. Okay, that's a synopsis, a brief. I saw something I assume was alive and all that. Now I'm thinking, really, am I gonna pass this thing? Do I believe what I'm saying? I wonder if I really, I'm a skeptical person, believe it or not. And when I scratched my nose, I remember that she's, it's all on computers. We're gonna have to stop that. And I'm like, oh no. Then she's sitting there collating everything, and she said, you know what? She goes, Larry, I'm gonna tell you, you have passed. And I'm like, jeez, I'll tell you what, and it wasn't like, ooh, but I love the counter arguments from the debunkers, the enemies,
Yeah. I don't even want to give them a breath.
No, I'm not naming. I mean, because they're truckloads of them. But the thing is, I always counter. Polygraphs, people can beat it. I think my old sidekick said, well, if anyone can beat one, it's him. Well, I should be out in Vegas playing cards right now. But that's the insults you get. But I always say, had I failed it, you guys would be praising how accurate polygraphs are. So there's a number of other people. I'll name Holt, and I won't go into the other enlisted guys. But Holt definitely should sit down on any agendas, but he won't.
Yeah.
And that's that. You don't have to take one. You're straight up. But, I'm the guy that got the thing out a long time ago.
Right.
And I got the audio tape. That's me. I brought it back from Japan in '85, and I turned it over to CNN.
Yeah.
The English were selling it around. We sent the Holt memo over here for them to help them when through me and others got it out. And they sold it for 25,1983 pounds to the News of the World. So there's always been a money spin, always been a profiteering. And there's only one in particular that ran that show. And he was a lawyer. He's deceased now, so I won't go there on. That's what people do. Except the people that have been through these things authentically don't do these things to people.
Right.
They don't do it. And you recognize. Now, I would venture to say that you have had things previous to Bentwaters. This is a personal opinion, because since you were very young, and I don't know if that's the case or if you even want to comment, but I would guess, because I did. I had a lifetime.
Yeah, I did.
And you don't have to go there.
No, but just to give you an idea, it was more of knowing that in our house that there was definitely something in the cellar, and I mean, it was to the point, my sister actually, not Donna, my oldest sister, actually locked me in the cellar, and that was like
Oh my God.
really, 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 really frightening. Um, and when my mom and dad were getting, just to give you an idea, when my mom and dad were getting a divorce, well, when they got into a big fight, and mom decided to sleep in my bed with me because she could
Right.
tell I was upset.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, she fell asleep. It's middle of the night, and I start hearing ha 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 ha
Oh God.
ha ha. It kept getting
Yeah, I'm
louder.
with you.
And I was like, I got to the point where I'm trying to forget. I don't want to hear it. I don't want. And I finally woke mom up to say, "Did you?" You know, I was like really, really scared. And
Yeah.
so I knew. And then when they divorced, everybody went with mom except me. And
Okay.
I'm in the house by myself. And all of a sudden, I start hearing it, ha 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 ha. And I had a babysitting job. I left the house, went over there, went to the babysitting job early, like 2 hours early. But yeah, and yeah, but
Early zone time.
I've always been. But the other thing is, I mean, I had a bunch of different things happen, but I've always
So
been.
you're open to, you see, and I have seen things that shouldn't be. It's in the book, and other people with me in my life have seen it. It actually killed a few girlfriends off. I can tell you that. Ex-wives. I've been married twice. Not good in that department. Great women, great ladies. How they dealt with me, but and still friends. Uh, but my parents divorced also in 1968. They split up, and so I was with my dad, and I've been through all that, and then I went to live with my mom, and yeah, I remember my dad. He was 91 soon. He's still alive, God bless him. And he's reading he read the book, and he said, he goes, "I see you made me the heavy in the book." I mean, it got very family, blah blah blah. My sister goes,
Yeah, those are the pieces. Yeah.
yeah, and that's family normal. That's why I can relate to you. And my sister, her big criticism, because I don't think she's ever read a book. I don't know. She's so far left. God help her soul anymore. But I love her. But she says, big time. And she says, she took a picture today, and it was on Facebook. Sammy, I think you're friends on Facebook. And she had this very skeptical look, and I said, "Oh my God, you look like someone just mentioned Trump." So that was.
Oh God. Yeah.
But yeah, all that family. But I think being open to the paranormal, that I have had more than. Listen, I wouldn't blame anyone. I've been very fortunate to be with not just Bentwaters. Didn't need that thing. I'm still not clear what that is. I think it's other dimensional things that kind of works for me. It probably ain't. I've had the time. I remember Jim with his time travel and all this. It's just too a neat little bow, but I remember talking to John and Jim, and they'd have previous things since they were young, and they're both from the Midwest. But I've hung, and so and people deal with things different, and so we have that in common. And divorced parents, that was very weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
I saw Bigfoot in New York State. They're there, and I was with my mother. I mean, my sister. We were going to Niagara Falls. They're there in New York. There's no doubt. Not in the city, I hope, but.
I'll tell you one of the experiences I had over in England. I think I mentioned this in Capel Green was seeing the ghost of Colonel Thompson, and
Right.
he didn't have his hat on. It was so funny because I thought he was a real person, and he did not have. He was out at East Gate, and he was just kind of like leaning against some equipment. Didn't have his hat on or cover, whatever you want to call it. Smoking a cigarette, just kind of like leaning back. He looked like he liked to party. That's it's like yeah. But all I kept thinking about, I was stressed out because if the law enforcement patrol came by and saw him without his hat on, I would get in trouble. Because they said,
All right.
Rehfeldt, how come you didn't tell him to put his hat on? I'm like, because he's a full bird colonel? I'm not telling a full bird colonel to put his hat on. Then when I look back again, he was gone. And at that
Was he that A-10 pilot that crashed in November?
yeah.
And that, in New York, that when I was on leave, that was in the paper. I said, "Wow, that's my base." That guy came. Oh wow, that's something, huh? Wow.
Yeah, and he
I'm with you.
Yeah,
Wow.
he was supposed to be really, really the best of the best, from what I heard. But anyway, but he
Wow.
definitely liked the party. Even his ghost liked the party.
Well, I
Uh,
like him already.
really, really. But yeah, yeah. Apparently, what happened? It was at Chick Sands, RAF Chick Sands, and at an air show, and it cartwheeled. He flew too low, and it cartwheeled
Oh,
over the trees. And the wreckage was actually over by not that far from CSC.
okay.
Yeah. You know, when I left, it's funny, when I got to Nellis Air Force Base, it was right after, I mean, like a week after the Thunderbirds went straight into the ground.
Oh, God.
Of
Yeah.
course, the first thing they did was,
Remember that?
my sponsor took me out to see the wreckage. It was like, okay, wow. It was pretty, I didn't see any blood or anything disgusting,
Yeah.
but it was just sad.
I think Jim Peniston, when I met with him on the 30th anniversary, he was over here, and we had a pleasant interaction. He didn't get along with the other guy there, but maybe he knew something I wasn't aware of yet. But he was talking to me about some of these. He used to have to go to these investigations on the wreckage and all that. I said, I remember talking about it. Yeah, I didn't have to see any of that kind of thing. Nothing. I don't think anything crashed when I was there.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we had to go out because I told you I switched career fields, and one of the things we had to do is go out, and they were showing what to do at a crash site, and they went to the commissary and got a bunch of raw meat or mostly bones and that kind of thing, and they took it out and they threw it all around the wreckage
Oh,
as
God.
like, yeah, yeah, we had to videotape. That was pretty weird.
Oh, like a simulated wreck and what to, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, what
God.
you do and how you put these little stakes, little flags in the ground to
Yeah.
point different things are. Yeah,
Oh, no, I didn't see any of that.
yeah, good.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Yeah, so you left me on my own, Lori, on the base, and look what happened to me.
yeah,
You
no,
could have put me in your suitcase and flown me out of there. I
no.
would have,
I gotta tell you, I felt so when I saw that bus come in. Because at one time I was actually on Woodbridge main gate. All I did when I was on day shift, that's all I did was I was a gate guard.
yeah, it
And
was a British bus. It wasn't our blue school bus things. It was a British coach thing, like, they're greyhounds of the
yeah,
day. Yeah,
and
yeah.
and I just remember seeing they were taking you guys over to Woodbridge, for that training. That they had just recently started that training. Now, you guys were like went through a more intense training than the other previous people went through. And
Right.
and it was supposedly longer or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
So when you guys went to my gate, I really, really felt like I wish I could stop the bus and tell them, just
run.
a heads up to say this place isn't what it seems to be. If
Yeah,
and I said for a lot of you, you're gonna have to watch your back because some people were saying that well, we heard there was a lot of drug problems on the base, and they
yeah.
were being kicked out and left and right.
I
Yeah,
heard that.
yeah,
Yeah.
there were some drug problems happening.
I didn't see that really,
Yeah,
though. I have to tell you.
no, but what was happening is that people just didn't want to be there anymore. A lot
Yeah.
of the guys were like, I mean, look what's
You know what
people.
was very prevalent was if you were going to end up an alcoholic, that was your training school. I noticed a lot of young people, very, very heavy drinkers, in the security end, because there's no women in our AFSC at that time.
Right.
Not at that point. And then it's all different now anyway. And they get off shift, they'd be drinking beers and the sun's coming up in the hallways, and you could never sleep in the dorms, as you know. And but I remember there was the first female firefighter in the Air Force, allegedly, named Joan, and I won't name her last name. I hope she's with us. And I remember a pretty girl from Texas,
Mhm.
And I remember when she wasn't working, I mean, she had to be my age, a year older, 2 years older at the most, had that alcoholic look. I mean, there were a lot of hard drinking stuff
Yeah.
going on. Even I did after the thing. I was, yeah, and it continued for a lot of years.
Yeah, there was a group of young women on the base in the dormitories that they called themselves the Hussies, and
That's familiar.
and
I
they
think I went through, I mean, met them,
and one of the women that was there was people called her Wicked Wanda, and
which I met her, but
yeah,
I had enough trouble.
she drank so much that we had to take her, she was out of control, and we had to take her to the clinic where they
Yeah,
had to draw blood from her, and pretty much
there was no blood.
I had to sit on her to hold her down because she was just like acting crazy. And
Yeah,
but this was, for the women's dormitory, we didn't see it that much, but before, it was in January, February timeframe of 1979,
hmm,
we had about 3 inches of snow, and literally the whole base was shut down. It's like it shut the base
it's
down.
still that way here.
Yeah, it was like, oh no. And I mean, one of the NCOs was driving a police vehicle, and apparently the air traffic controller contacted CFC to say, hey, you got one of your guys is lost on the runway, get him off the runway. And but at that time, because everybody was not going anywhere, I mean, we had to still work, but
Yeah.
I went to the Class 6 store. I think
Oh yeah, I remember that.
we had to when the Class 6 store would close, we had to escort the manager to the bank so that he had a bunch of money, so we had to make sure he got to the bank and it was all secure, that kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
walked in there in the Class 6 store, which is for us, it's our liquor store on base, is that
I never went there.
it was empty. The whole thing was empty, literally empty. All the shelves empty. I was thinking to myself, I looked at the guy and I said, well, I think everybody's drunk on base. It's going to be fun. So it was.
Right in the Cold War, yeah.
Oh,
Do you remember the big wine of choice? I don't know about you gals, but I know in our dorm there was Black Cat wine. Black Cat,
yeah.
yeah, with the black plastic cats that string them across the door.
Yeah, actually, I
Oh.
went into some guy's room, and he while I was working.
Chris Arnold had the most of them, though. You remember Chris, right?
Maybe that was him, because I
Yeah.
went into one of the rooms, and he go, oh yeah, look at it. It's like it went wrapped around all these little.
Oh, that's Chris. And he had played guitar too. That was Chris, definitely.
And he was so proud of it, and I said,
Very.
I think he got a drinking problem. I just felt so bad though for him. I mean, they were like, we had
There was a lot of it.
listen to this. We had a tech sergeant at one time crawl through the ceiling tiles of the sound center, the music place where we would buy stereo equipment. And
Yeah.
he was crawling around. He'd go in, steal a bunch of equipment, take it back
I
to.
heard about that.
Yeah, and he went back and he had a harpoon as his weapon.
Oh,
So
perfect.
I was like, holy shit, excuse my language. But I was like, oh my God.
Hey, I'm on. It's all right.
Imagine calling home, saying, Mom, I'm sorry, I got harpooned, so it was like, it was just insane. I mean, and this is a tech sergeant who you think has 12 years in the military, maybe, that maybe he, wants to finish his time. And anyway, he ended up in Leavenworth. Then we had this other guy, oh God, what was his name? He was a security guy, Hannah. I don't know if you remember Hannah.
It's a familiar name. I don't know why.
He had been Army, and then he switched over to Air Force. Well, he decided to stick an M16. I think he did it in parts.
Part
Yeah,
for the IRA.
Yeah,
wasn't it? Anyway, he parted it off the base. That was before I got there. We heard
yeah,
about him.
yeah. And then he ended up throwing it into the North Sea.
That's right.
And they ended up finding it. And I'm thinking, what the I mean, this happened all the time. We had one guy take his weapon out at East Gate and start shooting, he was shooting it. And they called me, I was on Butley Gate. They called me
Mhm.
and they said, Rehfeldt, what are you doing out there? And I'm like, sitting, watching for cars.
The bullets,
And then,
looking out for bullets.
and then they told me that the other guy had taken his weapon out and started shooting because he didn't want to be on East Gate, I guess, and it was,
Okay, fine.
that was a scary place, but,
What moved you? Oh my God! The madness of it all. I'll tell you after the R thing in December was one example, and he wouldn't mind me saying I'm in touch with him still. He's not really on Facebook as Steve LaPlume.
yeah, I'm in
And
touch with him too. He's
yeah, he's a cool dude. I know him in civilian life and before that,
yeah,
but he lost it a bit, and Burroughs, and he's very open about it. A lot of people went downhill. I'm one of them too. I was paranoid, like, oh, what's going to happen next? I went to Amsterdam, with this crazy guy Barry something. I don't even know if he was anyway. We went to Holland on the sea link, from Harwich and over to blah blah blah, and did what you do in Holland for 2 days, 3 days. Got back, met this hippie going, "What year is it, man?" I'll never forget. I was in the army. I went AWOL in '69. I go, "Well, you're about 11 years late," and he was stoned off his head. I never forget. And when I got back that night in the room, came the drug hounds going through my drawers, and that I don't know. I don't want to be paranoid on that, but maybe they did that when people came back from Holland, and they're going through my deodorant, and so I went through that, and there was nothing there. I wasn't a druggy kind of guy.
Yeah, but I think there was a sense of, and a lot of the guys and I know you did not go SNAP, but
No.
many of the young men who went SNAP
Yep.
were really, really bright, thoughtful. We were just losing a lot of good
A
young,
lot of good guys.
a lot of good guys,
Yep.
and
And girls probably.
yeah, no, we didn't, because 5% of the military was women. There were hardly any,
Yeah.
We had one dormitory filled with women. Wicked Wanda, maybe.
Wicked Wanda is probably out there picking up paper.
Yeah. She was definitely pushing to get out. Then this other
No,
woman.
I did Gordon Williams' change of command. I was his security in the office, senior general officers parking, Hangar 74. Still have the schematic for it. I didn't draw it. How would I know?
Yeah.
And all these right to the end. And my whole thought was, okay, based on Persky, of course, they got me with a code that even Halt doesn't know what it means. And it doesn't mean medical. I didn't have any of that. Was that I couldn't get back in. And people said, well, wouldn't you be better in? And I go, oh, no, I'd be a threat inside because I know what to look for, who to maybe stir up, be a lunatic running around telling this crazy story out there because no one knew it. And Persky told me to, I had a hand carry from CBPO. Can't make this up, folks. I'm looking at the folks. As they're looking at us, and you had to hand carry your records from one place to some other place near.
To out process. Yeah,
and I had to do that, and he said I would, lose them or do. He kind of gave me a nudge, wink, wink. Just grab some proof that you were even in.
Yeah.
Now, and I just grabbed some real critical stuff, thank God, and so. I remember when we got to McGuire, when I was out processing, they were like, you're missing some stuff. We'll have to go back to the base. They're in my box. I'm like, no. The darndest, and it was a very good thing I did. I understand from the insane people in ufology that I can forge military records and stuff. That's thank you. Amazing.
Yeah,
But
and I heard all that stuff, and the thing that people don't understand is that, like, when you went to Lakenheath, a lot of people, when they were doctors, they did not work in their specialty. Often they worked wherever they needed them. So,
right.
I mean, you seeing whatever doctor you saw for whatever issue, you weren't seeing anybody for, that.
Oh, the Lake and Heath with my eyes. Yeah, that's all. Even the envelope, we have all that. These people, the small little minority out there, the noisy minority,
Yeah, yeah.
they haven't seen anything. Believe me, and you couldn't put it all out in a book and do all this. And it's what I had. Thank God I did it. The letter I wrote to my mother, predating Halt's memo, by the way, the only authentic, real. There's the writing
Yeah.
account of the Rendlesham Forest incident is written by me
Mhm.
days before Halt even authored, a week before Halt authored the Halt memo. And I sent that to my mother. Thank God she saved it. The envelope, that's all real. And they say, oh, it's old. That's it. And thank God. And it's an account. I was trying to be clever and kind of talk around me and other things. And again, you have to remember, I thought this was all one night. I did not know until 1983 that there were 3, maybe 4 successive nights of some sort of activity. I had no idea. That has come out. Well, that came out in 83. It started to become apparent. Like, I had no clue. So
Well,
that stops the rumor
and you could
thing that
imagine me. Could you imagine me, having gone through it with this guy Keith Duffield and
yeah,
and talking with the desk sergeant not long ago, Alan Cohen.
Cohen, right.
that they
Yeah.
were that they were all there, and then talking to some other law enforcement people. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Uh, anyway, they all had all bits and pieces of what they saw when they saw it,
Sure.
and it's like my sighting was corroborated. Um,
Yeah.
Oh, actually, also, what was interesting is that Doc Rhodes was actually, because I was working on D flight at that time. So I was working,
I remember him. I remember him.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Doc Rhodes was on gate 12, the main gate of Woodbridge. So he saw the
Okay.
lights, he saw the white lights. So,
Yeah.
all the pieces kind of come together,
Well,
and
it helps, doesn't it? It's nice when they do.
oh,
I've been corroborated almost from Larry Fawcett's phone call to Adrian Bustinza in 1983.
yeah.
And yet that never happened now. Believe me, it happened. People be very
Oh, no, no,
clear on that.
no. Last I heard, he said it happened. I mean,
Oh, no,
been,
it's way more than that now. But unfortunately, we're still waiting for that train to come in.
yeah, well,
But I can't. There's things I can't. I got to tell you with this movie. I know what I did with it,
mhm.
and I haven't filmed anything in a long, long years. I did because it's not just about me anymore. I didn't want it to be. It was supposed to be. And then people came in, not just yourself, a lot of people have come into this. And you have a retired CID detective, worked on the 7/7 bombings
Mhm.
that did probably the best ground research on the Rendlesham Forest, the December 1980 events than anyone has done, bar Ray Boucher and Scott Colburn, who never got credit. They were buried by the egomaniacs that initially were on it. I have to say, Little Dot Street, we know and love Dot, and she had a tiger by the tail from day one. And I've known Dot since I met her in '83. I mean, I was a kid, and she was a young woman. Now I saw today she's going, happy birthday, Dot. 75, you're still a wild child. And so you had the people that did the real ground stuff did not get the attention. Scott Colburn, Ray Boucher, from Nebraska, and Ray is a wonderful human being, and Scott's passed away. Really did some amazing things that just got lost in it. I had Gary Hazeltine ask me when there's parts of really focusing on my record and that. He was in our counterpart in the British RAF. and with nukes and all that. And he's going, why didn't so-and-so ever push this? Like, and I go, you know what? I can't blame anyone else. Even me, I was just thinking, we've got to get this book published somehow. Our publisher bought up a lot of titles. They got ours. I was offered a much bigger thing if I got rid of the co-author. That's not who I am. And I had to decline. So we got a much lesser, probably a bit dishonest agent. And we were sold off to Publishers Group West. And they bought in a lot of titles at that time in '96 and then buried them. So it was lucky that Travis Walton's book, his newer version of his story, our book, Left at Eastgate, and I think Stan Friedman's book, I forget the name of it, were the ones that got out. Don't mean we didn't get robbed. I don't know about the other guys. Well, we were so naive. Now, the second publisher, well, I'm not going to go there, but it's a naughty business anyway. And, we're naive. That's all I can say. I mean, 11 and a half years of working on that.
Yeah.
And I remember one of our witnesses saying, I read it, maybe a comment like, well, why didn't they contact us? So I said, well, you weren't available. I started writing this book in the 80s.
Yeah.
Where were you?
Yeah.
Where were you?
Yeah,
I had enough to deal with what I went through and alone, except some anonymous comments and things, and where were you? You've been welcome. We have, with the film, I can say I remember when the film, this Capel, what's it called, Capel Green came out, or when it was starting. Invitations were made, and this wasn't my choice because personally, me, it's up there is my view. I don't want to be mean, but no way, I owe these people nothing anymore. And I'm the guy in 1984 typing badly on an old typewriter a letter to the Air Force Times saying, as a unified voice, it's been I don't know where the actual thing is, but it's in the book. As a unified voice, us together, we'd be a real powerhouse to get disclosure wasn't even used back then, but get accountability or whatever. I think I had a little advice from Larry Fawcett on it. And I was doing this way back, looking to get people. Where the hell were they? Boo-hoo. But here we are. Enough about me. How's the coffee?
Well, the one thing that I think is that the bottom line is that at least the feeling that I have inside myself is that there's this unfinished business, really, that we need to really still get the core information of what transpired during that time. And I think that's the only, and I even heard that when you were filming Capel Green, that apparently a big red orb went by or something like that. So, I mean,
there was something, Lori, I can,
there's some,
there are things because I know the director will go crazy and all this, but I'm aware of some things that happened where I wasn't there. I wasn't involved, and there were a number of things on different days and nights, and I was there for one thing when certain people were being interviewed just by fluke. I think I had to go back and reshoot something, so they made me take my mustache off or some crazy showbiz thing, and so we did all that, and that evening, I'll tell you sometime, and it was seen by others, and it went right past us. I'm like, are people even noticing what just went past? It's a lot. It's a creepy damn place. That's all I'm going to say. But there are things, anomalies that were definitely filmed there, and I wasn't there. And the thing I'm talking about, everyone else was over in this property interviewing people, and it was dark, and I'm standing there with two people in a vehicle. They had a big truck or something, and Tino wasn't there with me. They were over the road, and this this big headlight thing, like the hillbillies hunt deer and all that. They light up. But anyway, I'm out in it's the woods. First of all, there was the sound, the scream, this horrible thing that I must be on tape because they were filming. And it was the loudest, most disturbing thing I've ever heard. It wasn't deer. It was the strangest damn thing from the woods. And we're at the edge of it on the road, before you get down Eastgate. And and then this thing just comes rolling down the road, slow truck, and I'm thinking, oh, it's deliverance. I'm gonna end up over a log or something. And this thing came by on the road. I mean, other people seeing it, and they're like, they didn't react like you would. Even I didn't. I'm looking at this. I go, is this a fan? This is how weird things. And it had a ladder-like thing, and it just huge lights all over. And it was like a vehicle just came. I don't think it was on the road. I don't know. I can't prove this. It was my last time down there, by the way. And it went by, got to the end, silent. Now I'm looking at the truck. The people in the truck who did science work on the Capel Green itself, the gentleman. They're just kind of sitting in the truck, just like frozen. It was, and I'm like, and now it comes back, and it was the same weird thing came by on the road. It was just, and I don't know, and I don't want to know. And they're over there interviewing that. They go, oh, we saw bright lights and all. I go, well, it was more than that. I don't know. It had a ladder thing, and you would think it was a truck, was it? And it wasn't. It was everything shape shifts there, and as reality is bent a bit, And you should. I look forward to you being with you to come back.
Oh yeah, that would be so great. That would be fun.
Yeah, that will happen. I'm pretty sure of that.
I think
And
I should hang out in the woods, kind of like right behind the weapons storage area.
put your back on your gate, girl.
Yeah.
Salutes are proudly rendered in return. Yeah, and that I see you were in the face of the offices all the time. You remember how everything, when you went in, there was all the blue labels, blue and white letters, and the rank was, well, when I went in, they had gone OD, so it was dark. And so I can't tell you how many offices I walked by and I felt someone staring at me. And I look back and they're just waiting, and I finally see the majors. I said, I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
I thought they were like airmen.
Yeah, I had that happen because a lot of the vehicles, you had to look for this little blue square thing on the, a label that they had on their car, and they could put it on their bumper or their windshield. So it wasn't like you have to put it in a certain place. And I waved this woman on, and I was like saying, have a nice day, and she stopped her vehicle. And then I went up to her to see what was going on. Ma'am, may I help you? And I saluted her because at that point I recognized she was, so I saluted her. And she goes, yeah, I just have one question for you. Why did you
from New York?
Yeah, why did you wave at me and you didn't salute me? And I'm thinking, I was thinking,
you're not my type. I'm kidding, sorry.
I've been putting up with so much bullshit at this base. And
it was a trip, man.
It just did this kind of took me a little bit, it's like, you just ruined my day, get over it.
I know we were proud to serve, you and I know I'm sure everyone else, and whether we get along or we don't or whatever. And I served, and I didn't sign. We're in just a few years after Saigon fell. I mean, that people don't realize that, and it was not a popular thing to do, but NYU wasn't calling me or Columbia to come learn with them, at that time after high school. So I wanted to serve. I wanted to get back to England. The Air Force afforded that. And I was the last this is what my recruiters told me. Jack Gorman and Larry Schaff, never forget their names. They said, well, you're going to be the last enlisted, the last person with a guaranteed country of choice. So I knew I had England.
Yeah.
And they had all those little incentives. Like, that's why I was Airman First Class, 6-year wonder, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't planning to go in and have a UFO thing or get problems. I said, I'm going to do this thing. And, and I was well prepared to do it, and heading right there. Who knew this thing would go on? But then again, the older I get, I keep thinking it's just part of the stage play of life. It's all preordained.
Oh yeah.
The big guy upstairs, I think, just goes, no, you got to do this, Laura, you got to do that. Somehow you're going to converge, and this is life.
Yeah. In my case, who knew that I was going to have to go into the Army National Guard to get my commission, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I was really planning on going through officer training school. And it was mainly because, and the reason I got my commission is because I felt like I was pushed down so hard by, you know, really marginalized in so many ways with people like Rehfeldt, shut up, you know?
Oh,
And
I hate that. I can't stand that. Yeah.
yeah, and I just felt like, you know, in my head, I knew I was better than the way I was treated. And
You are.
I know. So I said, damn it. So in my head, it was mostly these people that were now ghosts, you know, because they went off to their own bases. I didn't keep track of any of them.
Yeah.
And you know, I was determined. I'm getting my degree. I'm getting this. I got my degree in '86.
Congratulations. Good for you. Really. It's not easy, and good for you.
Well, I got it
And
while I
you
was
did.
active duty too. So, you know, I mean, it
So
was,
I have to salute you too, Major, you know. But I think it's very cool. I really do. And you know, and you did it. How many years of service did you put in, Lori?
27.
27 years of
Yeah,
service, you know.
years active duty and 17 in the reserves.
You know, that's a salute to you,
Well, I
Major.
appreciate that.
You know,
I
I love that. I love our country. There's a lot of things about it I don't, but the whole world's a darn mess. But we lived in some extra special fried rice times, did we not?
yeah,
And weren't we in a weird? People never understand what it was like on that place.
oh yeah,
UFOs are not. They just won't unless you were there.
yeah,
They just won't. And yeah, somehow your event, which is part of the big picture, because obviously even shooting the film, things happen. When I went back with, not to, I keep bringing up Peter. I don't mean him any ill will. Uh, well, I don't. Uh, but even when we went back and I imagine I think he says he never met me. He just wrote the book for me, and because I was too crazy or something. He's probably right. But I know, and people believe this. But away from that, we went back in '80, and I bring this up for a reason. We went back in '88, and I said, "Well, you have to see the place," and you know that whole story. And our first night there, right, we walked from Ike up to the base and the Burger King, which we didn't have, did we?
yeah,
And
yeah,
we
really,
had the bowling. We had, yeah, it's all woke now, but we had the hard days.
yeah. We had
We,
to go to London to get a hamburger.
well, the bowling alley had pretty good, if you could deal with bowling people. I don't know. They were serious too, weren't they?
I actually got kicked out of the bowling alley because
Me too.
my friend Katie, who she was an electrician on the helicopters at the 67. She and I decided to have a party at my flat, at my house, and we had all this beer and wine and all this stuff, and it was like the party that no one showed up to, and we were like, oh my god. So we sat there, and I drank a big bottle of Lambrusco. Then we decided to go for a walk. So we're traipsing along the road, and these guys came over and gave us a ride, and they were American guys. We were like so naive. I mean, we were so drunk, and they gave us a ride to the base. So we get to the base. Next thing you know, we're heading into the Camelot Theater. It was the Spielberg film 1941.
Oh yeah, I love it.
And I,
No
and
one does. I love it.
I had a serious buzz going on. I was drunk. So I sat there for a few minutes. I'm like, I don't want to be here. So I got up and I left. And this one guy followed me, and we decided to go over to the bowling alley. And they had just built it. I mean, they built it right before you got there.
Yeah, it's pretty new when I got there.
Yes, and you know, everyone was so proud of it. So we went in there and we barely bowled anything before they they kicked us out. They said, you guys are intoxicated, you gotta leave. So we were like, well, fine, we'll leave, you know. We go back, he gives me a ride back to my house.
I hope you trashed the place before you left. No,
Yeah, all of a sudden, all the people showed up that it was like the party began, you know, we're like, oh, where are you guys?
good
Yeah,
God.
I was a mess. It was fun though, you know.
I had a few hangovers. I remember New Year's Eve '81. You know the story. Holt found me. Remember we had a curfew in the female dorms.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Holt found me, and I tried to hide in the refrigerator, which is absolutely a true thing. And
Yeah.
Rick Bertolino and him escorted me out, and I jumped in the window. Oh man, I
Yeah.
was really pushing things, but the head was all discombobulated at that point, and I could never really handle a lot of booze, really. That's where I got in trouble. But with '88 is that our very first night. I don't care what he says about this now. There's audio tapes of it. Just south of the base, everything, you name it, every kind of phenomena right in front of us, everything. And you'd say, why didn't you take pictures? So we took I didn't even have a camera, I don't think. He took a black and white film for the book. We're just black and white, it's cheaper. And it wasn't even a thought we saw a thing on the way out, and then coming back to Ike. This is the first night. The guy really melted down after this.
Yeah.
And we saw every kind of representation. You think of the Rendlesham Forest thing, even the movement of small something out in this field near this pumpkin looking thing and this big barrier of light. And I can remember the other guy saying, and you could see an SP patrol up on the pickup truck going around the perimeter somewhere, and him going, this stuff goes on here and no one even notices. I go, well, it was just stage managed. It was almost like, well, he probably says I set it all up. So, but it was so stage managed. It was by someone, and you couldn't help I still feel that. I still can picture some of the things that went on there. And it was just out of central casting. It was like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. And that did melt the other one down a bit. I ran after the phenomenon. He grabbed me, and stopped me. I was like swearing, I won't use the words, at it and attacked it. And it was all there. It was why? I don't know. I can't prove it, but it happened.
Well, it's funny is one night after a swing shift, I was at CSC, and I was talking with my supervisor at the time, Staff Sergeant Mullinex, and he was trying to give me a pep talk or whatever, and I was just trying to be nice and say, well, I wanted to say, I gotta go, see you later. And all of a sudden, he's facing in the direction of CSC, not the direction of the weapons storage area. And so I'm heading, to my car that's parked where, in the parking area. And I could see in the distance of, I would say, the Ivy Lodge gate with locks is, or that, or not that far from the Rod and Gun Club. It looked like it was like fireworks going off. It was really, really colorful. It was like, and I said, you got to see that. And he turns around and it's gone.
What do you know? Yeah.
Then he turns back to me again, and all of a sudden there it is again. And I'm thinking, what the hell?
That was meant for you. That's what that is. That's this. Yeah. I'm not all woo woo, but I go, I've had enough bizarre type insane things that shouldn't be. Well, I think we're all brothers and sisters in that, and the mind can only do so much. But it's the older I get, I'm like, it's just we're never going to know it all. With Rendlesham, where all the things went through there, we're never going to know it at all. But I will say there were some things on the way, and the movie is one thing. And from what I've seen, I can say this to you, I've seen on Vivo, the directors put out little brief things just for you to see rushes. And staggering. It's no perfect. I mean, just as far as the look, even though in the interviews, a few, they won't let me see everything because they think I have a big mouth. Prove that. But no, I wouldn't. And there's going to be some foundation shaking things, and I expect a few things. I expect American ufology, because it is manipulated and run by Mr. Pope. I don't know why over here he doesn't have any traction because they're on to it. It's then you have, and I owe him no cause to be kind to him. He's slander and as a salacious.
Oh, yeah,
person.
yeah, I mean, he's been downright,
He was never that way. I never saw that in him years ago. Never did. Not to get on him because he gets enough attention, but I've never seen a person who just so selflessly does not care and how he can manipulate and twist. And it's pretty staggering. But like I said, water seeks its own level, and eventually they all find themselves, or like the rest of the saying goes, where I'm from, water seeks its own level, especially in a sewer. So isn't that something? Oh, right on the heel. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day,
Yeah.
the ufology in America is really going to have trouble with this a lot. And I'm past the age. I don't have the fire to be out front with this. I'm really kind of past all this as far as the public stuff. It's an honor to do this with you. I did a couple other, really it is, because I mean, finally we've talked on this type of thing, but we didn't do the interview. And I don't have, the sad thing is, or the good thing, I don't have the fire that, and get out there. And I've done the whole circuit. I've met a lot of nice people on the subject. If people think I'm attacking, I'm not, because I met my ex-wife, and I have a son because of this, because of the book. So I'm the winner there. I got a great son. He's 21. But as far as the subject goes, my concern only is for witnesses, authentic witness, not just Bentwaters and all that, and not being abused. Because you see, the big thing is the government. They blame the government. The government has think tanks that sit back and they go, well, this is what will happen to that person. They will go out. They will seek out. Well, back in our day, I remember Bustinza and me saying, we've got to go to the newspapers. As if, right? And you'd be tarred and feathered, run out of a town. I lost a job when CNN came on. They go, sorry, we can't have that kind of behavior here, UFO behavior. And really, I've been through it. Other people have been through it, and careers have lost. But the real enemy, unfortunately, yes, computers are a good thing. They're a very bad thing, and they have given voice to people that really, frankly, don't deserve one, except in an asylum or a prison, perhaps. That is the word. I'm not going to change any of that. You see the state of the world and the evil that is these people. I'm a grown man. I take on anyone. But it's not going on to me now. I don't see it. I could care less. But I went through some heavy stuff.
I know what you went through,
and so did Gary Hesseltine and others. And well, it just was manipulated, twisted. Here's a piece of truth, turn up the work. And it was so clever that the government, or agencies, whoever runs this stuff, and I think it's private sector, when the government says we don't know nothing, they probably don't. It's slant operations. Someone told me that once that might know. But in the end, I think the worst mistake someone can make, and and Betty Andreasen, from the Andreasen affair with Bob Luca, her husband, she warned me, and I just sat at their house in '82. I said, I can't talk to my family. It's all in the book, blah, blah, blah. Had oral surgery, went to the house in Connecticut, and I didn't live far from him in '82. And I said, I've got to tell you this. And I thought, these people are crazy, she had paper mache alien things. And I'm like, that was my defense thing. Well, after a while, they're lovely people, great people. And that led to Larry Fawcett and then the Halt memo and then blah, 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 blah. I wish I knew that. But Betty, I will never forget, she's passed away, saying to me, she's from New England, so her thing was, if you go forward, you will be attacked.
Yeah.
Now, your first thing in a thing like we went through, it would be the federales, the government, this and that. No, it's the people you go to more often than not in this. And I've never, it's a sickness. It's a strange thing. I don't understand. I'm not a psychologist, but I should have a PhD in it now after all these years with this. And that is what I would warn people to be very cautious who you share, your information with and your experience, you know. And if you're coming in thinking, I'm going to make up a tale, you won't last long anyway. You wouldn't stick around. If you're looking for money, you're not going to stick around because there ain't none. The people that make the money are the five voices that over your way is the Nick Popes, the Jeremy Corbells. I don't know the gentleman, but you know, a few others. I'm not impressed with all the modern, you know, ufology began in 2014 with this, and now they want to rebrand it UAP. Not on my watch, they're not. And that is just to keep the public more. But ufology, once again, at large, falls for it. They're the most naive bunch. They really are. Not everyone. Not everyone. I knew the top guys from Hynek down. I knew them all.
Yeah.
There is such a it's a hobby, I think, a lot. It's entertainment. A lot. We're not entertainers. We might be entertaining, but we're not.
Yeah. No,
You can't control what people do on these things. But I do know that these vile troll type people, even though I do know some personally,
yeah.
and these are the same that would drive a child to commit suicide. You're not pushing me anywhere, let me tell you. And they do it at great distance. These are the type people that are, because of these machines, are more often the voice of the subject nowadays. And I would think people would take heed, because I got nothing to prove to anyone, and I've already done all that. And take heed and be very cautious. To any other Rendlesham, I've had other well-meaning people looking at Rendlesham. We're hoping others come forward. God, I say, do not do it unless you know what's going to come your way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's going to come from the people you think.
Yeah, it's like
It's unnecessary, but it's the people that you think that we're going to unify. We're going to do this and that. Now there's never been unity, and now it is so fractious. That's why Cable Green is not made for the UFO community. It's made for a worldwide market. It's not these entertainment things even I've been on over the last 40 years on the television. You know, they're still on a lot. I look younger. And it's not that. It's a whole big thing. So the subject at large, or the civilian end of whatever this is, I'm afraid are going to look just like they deserve. And there'll be no malice. It's going to be simply, that's how it is. And I've had people in my life, you know, I'm not from a UFO family, or believe me, I'm not, or paranormal. I'm supported by them. They support me the best they can. Belief, what can you believe? How could you believe? But they know I went through something. That's all you can ask from anyone. But there's people, Lori, out there, friends that go, that look into things, that go, how the hell did you stick around this stuff? I said, because it happened.
Yeah.
And once I get back shivved, you know, shivved in the back like you're at Attica, that's when I get mad and I keep fighting. But I say at this age, I think the certain vehicle, you're in it, and I did see your parts, quite good. And I was there when you were, I was there when the actress played you. That's right.
Oh, wow, that was so cool. That really made my day.
You know, she read her, I forget her name, very exotic actress name. And they had I remember they had to put this, I can't say, but I'll tell you. But they in the pickup truck, and you're with Duffield, and the actors are there, and the girl playing you. And what she did all day, and this is just before I flew home because my mother died. She was passing away. So I didn't see my part filmed, by the way. And, but I had to go with my mom. And in fact, Gary Heselton says, you can't do it over the phone. Go home. You got to get back to state. Well, all she did all day, your actress, is read books. And she was the girlfriend of the guy, Max, that plays me.
Oh, fun.
And they were nice kids, but they were very aloof all day. And I said, and I had to show him how to hold the weapons and all. I've seen the trolls make fun of that. Boy, I wish they'd come and hang out with us someday. But anyway, Max, and they were boyfriend and girlfriend. They're probably grandparents now. No, I'm kidding, Dion, sorry. And bless the grandkids. But the funny thing is that she was reading a book all day. She wouldn't. You must have spoke with her or something, because she just seemed to know just what she's going to do. And then she got in. I watched You're Seeing It film. That was cool. That was really very Hollywood, I'll tell you. In
Yeah.
the woods, in the forest. It was some, but you'd think when all these big shoots they were doing down there with the lights and the whole, it was madness in the forest, right? And you think that, because you get a lot of people out there walking with dogs, and you get the UFO types, and you get the whatever they are, the crazy hippies and the egg people. I don't know. They're all there. And you would think we get a bunch of them. All we saw is two little kids come walking by and looking at us like, who the hell are these people? And that was it.
Wow.
So it was all filmed there, and that was quite an experience from what I saw of it. And you'll be thrilled. That's all I can say. I watched the thing, and she was quite good.
Well, I do look forward to it, and I'm so appreciative.
The whole world is looking forward to it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just happy to get my story out. I mean,
Oh, it is.
recently there was a woman on Twitter who I did a podcast with on her podcast. And she told me, when she introduced me, she said, now this is a story that for some reason, Lori's story seems to be under the wire. And she said, I really think it's important that people hear, listen
I
to
heard
the
that.
story. And I thought, thank you. I really, that
Yeah,
and you've always been like my friend, always.
always.
And it's like you've got my back.
I was your friend since December 1st, 1980, sister.
That's right.
In that bright sunshine with the ice on the road, or black ice. First time I ever heard that expression is over here.
Yeah.
And who knew? Who knew? I can still picture you. It's so weird. And when you post those pictures of you back in the day, and I go, wow, that's the lady. I just I remember your name was Lori and all that, and then you vaporized, gone. I didn't see you again.
I know. It was so weird though when I left and I got home. Now Lenin's dead, and everything in New York is about Lenin, and like Christmas time, and it's Lenin, and it was just like so sad, and I felt like a piece of my soul was left over there in England. And I felt like there was so much stuff that I didn't get resolved. Because it was, I had a deep for the way I was being treated and the way others were being treated. And I guess it was just unresolved. And I went up to, when I got to Lowry Air Force Base, I went up to Sergeant, I think he got Master Sergeant by that point, Campos. And he told me, I asked him, I just said to him, what do you think, what did you think happened? What did you think about your time at Bentwaters? And he, oh yeah, it was great, it was this, it was that. And I looked in his eyes and I could tell by his eyes were saying, don't go there, because I'm not going there. So I let it go again, because I was really hoping that maybe we could commiserate a little bit,
I shouldn't say this to you, and I say it with respect, Major, but I think more happened to you than seeing a light split up that you're not conscious about.
No, I think so too. I think there's something.
And I think wiser people than me would say, well, you don't put that idea in someone's head, because it can be a disturbing. But there's something more there that you haven't explored yet. I feel that. I just personally.
Wow. Yeah.
Sometimes it's better not to know. I don't know.
But yeah, I would like to, if we could, because we'll have to end soon. If we could do a part 2.
I love it. I've enjoyed every minute of it. What happened to your sister and the coffee?
Well,
Donna, where are you? Oh, you're out there. She's on the LIE with her coffee.
Yeah, what's funny is I told her, I said, well, we set up the time, and she said, oh, I can't do it until such and such time. I said, well, I'll do it myself. And then I said, but you could, if you have your phone, that kind of thing. But Yeah, I'm like, she really didn't say hardly anything. She actually had on an Amazon
Yeah,
jacket. Yes, she's working for that company. Um,
right.
they own their own routes over on Long Island, so,
Yeah.
but, but yeah, it's pretty cool. But anyway, but there is a piece of the story that I want to share with you that
Mhm.
has come out through my dreams, and
Mhm.
it pulls some of the pieces together. So because it's a recurring,
Dreams are important.
so
Yeah,
I'd like to share with you about that.
I would love. I'll come back anytime you want, my friend.
Yeah.
Anytime with you.
But
You
we'll
know
just
that.
make this the Lori and Larry hour.
Lori, yeah, but what about Donna? Where's Donna fit into all this?
Oh, Donna.
Oh,
I
it's good to hear the accents again. Oh,
What, you talking to me? Yeah, well, we grew up with the.
do you remember Linda Richmond, Coffee Talk? Mike Myers on set, talk amongst yourselves. Where's Barbara? I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Over here, it's all right. You know, it's
yeah.
Liverpool. You know, all right. No, they're all right. You know, they don't really talk that way. My son's actually very well spoken.
Oh, well, he's very, very handsome. He looks a lot like you.
He
And
got that from his mother, definitely not from me.
no,
He got
no,
it.
you take some
Yeah.
credit for it. Yeah,
Ah, thanks. Yeah, yeah. He's a big guy too. He's a good man. He's more mature than me in many ways. So I consider that a good thing.
oh yeah, that's important. My daughter just recently graduated from USC.
I saw. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. They're like, fight on. That's their logo. Even though I think that looks like peace.
Peace, but they don't know what that means anymore. Peace, man.
Oh, okay, peace, man. Yeah.
Remember what this means over here? No, I won't go there.
What's the
This is a religious program.
What's the
Oh
matter with
no,
you? You got to know respect.
forget about. Do you
Yeah.
remember Jerry's Disco? Or remember what's the story, Jerry? The story we could go into the old channel 11, 9, and 5 commercials.
Oh
You
my God.
remember? Hey Jerry, what's the story? The story is if you work in Queens and you could get washing machines, dryers, refrigerators, but only if you're a union member and your family. Class.
Right. That's right. Well, yeah. Then there was Crazy Eddie's.
Crazy Eddie Disco, a video I recommend everyone watches, where the disco ball falls on his head. It's legendary.
Well, he
Yeah.
ended up. I think. Well, he's dead now, but he.
Did he die?
Yeah. He ended up in jail, committed fraud.
Oh, the real, yeah, but the guy that did the commercials was
Yeah,
called
that
Dr.
was the real.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah, the real Eddie ran off and to Israel and then something planted a shoe tree and passed away. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
That's where the money went.
Yeah.
Cra-
Yeah. Good
Crazy Eddies. Oh God.
I know.
I'm amazed. How are we not insane and the best radio station in history is 99.5 WPLJ, New York's best rock. Oh, I get homesick.
The other radio station that was really a wonderful station when I was over in England was, I think it was Radio Caroline.
Yeah, that's all the pirate radio. That's gone now.
And that one,
Long gone.
yeah, and it sank. It
It
sank.
sank.
It sank
I
about
didn't do it.
April. Yeah, I went to work one day and they said it sank. And to me, that was that was such a highlight, that pirate radio station. And then when it
Yeah.
sunk, I was thinking, how much more can they take away from it? We don't have TV, we don't have this, we don't have that.
Well, radio over here now is just crap, and it's how that thumping whatever. But I'm an old grouchy guy, so I don't relate to that.
And yeah, I'm an old grouchy woman.
Hey, Lori, you're in Arizona, right? You're in Tucson area. You've never found Nick lurking in the cactuses outside by any chance, have you? You should have an electrified fence.
I live on the nice side of town. He lives on the
Oh,
dark side of town. I mean,
makes sense.
yeah, he's on a compound.
He's over there with the homies.
Yeah, he's over there with the coyotes and the javelinas, the wild, they look like wild pigs.
May
But
they take him to the desert?
I have, yeah, he doesn't live that far from me, but I have no desire. He has no desire to meet me.
No, I read his email to you. I can't see why it would. God.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, just a little levity. But yeah, how's the weather there? It's gonna be hot as
Uh,
hell.
it's over 100 right now. Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, we're about to get whacked here for England heat, but it's way hotter than you remember it in those days
Oh,
on Friday, and it's gonna be 27. I don't know the Celsius thing still.
okay.
I go, what's that?
Yeah.
What's that in Fahrenheit? Hey, you're an officer. You don't. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're not ready for the heat, the new world order over here. That with the weather,
Yeah.
I might have them fly me to Uganda or whatever they're flying the boat people to now. As soon as they come in, they put them on a plane and fly them to a African country,
Oh,
no matter where they're from.
oh, funny.
I might go with them. It's
Oh,
happening.
there you go. If you go,
We'll,
let's do a podcast while you're on
we'll
looking.
do the next show from Zaire. Yes.
There you go. There you go. Well, you
I'll
take.
let you go, darling.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me on. Love to Donna. Keep drinking that coffee. Hello, America. See you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
What a